Well, I'm sure you've heard that old expression, be careful but what you wish for, because you might just get it. Well, it was certainly the case here in Nova Scotia. All summer I wished for rain because of the dry weather and the fire ban. I got the rain, but it didn't stop. We'd get a few nice days and then it would rain heavy again. And we're expecting another quite heavy downpour tonight and tomorrow and the next day. So, it's a beautiful sunny day. I have to get out and take the opportunity while it's still here. The other thing I wanted to do was get out while the leaves were still on the trees. That is the changing color of the leaves. So that's what today's hike is all about. This is going to be a fall colors hike. I'm going to show you as much as I can of the fall colors in the area that I will be in today. And hopefully we'll see some other things along the way. I've already noticed some new mushrooms coming up. Ones I'm not familiar with, but I'll certainly try to identify. And yeah, I also have some toys or some other items that have been given to me for test and review that I will be introducing to you. It won't be a review so much as just an introduction that we'll actually do a more detailed test and review on at a later time. So if you're interested in seeing what I've brought along, what we can find along the way, stay with me. Okay, so admittedly, I don't know a lot about mushrooms. I know enough to categorize different classifications. I'm not even sure that's the correct terminology for it, but it's something I want to learn a lot more about. So here's a little mushroom. I have a faint idea of what it might be, but the best thing for me to do is to take a number of pictures of it, or if I feel I'm close to knowing what it is, I can always harvest it and take it home. So I am going to take this mushroom, give you a little indication of what its properties are and what I look for, and then I'll take it home or at least take the pictures home and compare it against my book. So we'll have another look at it in a second. Okay, so to begin with, one of the things I'm looking for is just the environment that it's in. Is it growing on wood? Is it growing out of the earth? Is it growing near the base of the tree or on the tree for that matter? Is the tree alive? Is the tree dead? In this case, there are no trees immediately close by. There's no stump under the earth right here, so I don't think it's growing on wood. I think it's growing what they call terrestrially, which means direct out of the wood. So the next thing I'm looking for is the base. I want to get down to see where its base looks like, because the base and the stalk itself will form part of the identification. So I'm looking at the base and I'm noticing its characteristics, and now I'm flipping it upside down. And what I see is a dark colored gill. Well, let's see if I can get this in frame here. A dark colored gills on the underside with a brown cap which has a darker center and is elevated or convexed in the center. These are all characteristics that you can find in the identification books. Now, if I have an idea what it might be and I want to confirm it, I would take it home, cut the stalk off just so there's the tiniest little bit left, lay it on a piece of paper, either white or black, depending on what spores I expect to have come out of it, cover it and leave it for a few hours or even overnight, and see what kind of spores, what color spores the mushroom will drop. And that'll give me the final confirmation in addition to the description. So I have recorded everything I needed to know about this one, and we may just take it home and do a spore print with it. All right, let's see what else we can find. So I got a little excited a while back. I found a patch of mushrooms, quite a good sized patch of mushrooms that I was quite excited to see. I wasn't sure what they were, but I got my camera out, thought I hit the record button and did not. So I'm going to have to go back on the way out and find that patch again. But here's one, another one to check out. Let's have a look once again. How is it growing? It seems to be growing terrestrially. There's no wood that I can find around it. It's white on top, quite convexed on top. Ooh, interesting. The base of it is a little larger than the top. Ah, it is known as a bolete mushroom, or bolete, depending on how you pronounce it. And the way we know that is it does not have gills. Now, if I can get in close enough, you'll see pores on the bottom of this mushroom. Now this is not a fresh, it didn't come up in the last day or so, but it is still in good shape. And I'm going to be harvesting this one, I think, because most boletes are edible. There are some that will make you sick, and there are some tests, and I should be able to compare this against the pictures in my book and know whether or not this one is safe to eat. Oh, that's a nice find. Okay, this is a good start. Now let's see what else we can find. So this spot would be familiar to anyone who hikes through the Blue Mountain Birch Cove Lakes area. And I guess you probably would have seen this a number of times on my videos. This is referred to as Flagpole Hill, and there's a bluff that overlooks the length of Susie Lake. I thought it was a good place to start by showing you a few of the fall colors. Now we'll see better than this, I'm sure, but you can see some of the maples turning red down there. Nice bright one right there. And out in the distance, way up there in the corner of the lake, and that's where I'll be headed today, is way up in that corner of the lake. We should see a lot more. So the forests that we're in right now are pretty mixed, softwood, hardwoods. But once I get into some pretty solid hardwood areas, that's where the colors will be. So it's just my first stop along the way. So the bush that I'm approaching now is what we know as the juniper. And the juniper is a low-growing bush, very prickly little needles on it. And what the juniper is probably most famous for are these berries right here. Ouch! They are prickly needles. Those little blue berries are what is used to flavor gin. So I haven't done this, but one of the things you can do with these berries as well is dry them, grind them, and add them to wild game, especially like venison, as a spice and give it a nice flavor. So if you wondered what a juniper bush looks like, what a juniper berry looks like, that's it right there. Sometimes the best view of the fall colors is not from the top of a mountain, although it is beautiful. I'd love to be up in Cape Breton in the highlands as I was a little while ago with my wife. But this is what I have here. But sometimes the best view is from down inside a little ravine looking up. So beautiful colors where the sun is coming through there. I hope that's coming through on the camera. So mushroom hunting is a lot like just about anything else. You kind of have to train your eyes to start looking for things that you might otherwise walk by. And once you've trained your eyes and your brain to see things, they start to pop out at you. Such as this nice little cluster of mushrooms right here on the forest floor, and I see a little bit more to my left as well. So I'm not sure what they are. I have an idea of what they may be, or at least the classification is. But let's get down low enough. I'm going to be doing this with my left hand. Ooh, it's not what I expected. I thought it might be another bolete, but this is not. So this is a gilled mushroom. Interesting. Not one that I'm familiar with. Using my sense of smell, it has a reasonably good mushroom smell. That is part of what you're going to be looking for. I am thinking honey mushroom. That is not a positive identification by any means. But I think I'm going to harvest a few of these, put them in my bag, take them home, compare them in my book. If it is a honey mushroom, it is edible. May not be choice. Some people like them. I haven't had them before, so I can't comment on them. But I see the remnants of a veil right here. Okay, these are things that we're going to look for and we'll compare in the book. So here's another one along the way. I'm already doing better than my last trip out, so let's see what else we can find. Another nice little stop-off point. There's a brook just over here. Well, rocks are wet, see if I don't slip on them. Running down between. Can't quite give you a full view of it, but you can see the water running out. It's running out with some force. It kind of dries up almost during the summer, or at least it did this summer. There's water flowing now. Just another little look at some of the colors. We'll see more. So one of the nice things about the change in the fall colors and the leaves are how they change at different rates. So right here is a maple. Next to it, still green, is an oak. But right above me is a quaking aspen. Just over there, some red maple. It's pretty, very pretty. So this is how easy it can be to miss something. I just stopped for a second to look at the base of this tree, which are red oaks, and what I was looking for, was hoping to see, was hen of the woods. No luck there, but I did see something of interest. I'm not sure what it is. I've already lifted this off, but I put it back so I could show you. And superficially it has banded colors in brown, like you might expect to see on a turkey tail. It's not turkey tail though, but when I turn it over, it is a polypore, very fine pores underneath, and the wavy margins, the outside edges there, are kind of unique as well. And where it's grown in association with this oak tree kind of gives it another clue that I can look up. So I'm going to put that back because I'm not sure it's something that would be either edible or medicinal, but I know where they grow on this tree and I'll be able to find it at a later time if I decided it is something worth. But I went to get up off my old knees and almost stepped on a couple of very interesting things here. See if I can get down close to it. So what caught my attention first was this one, the one on the end of this stick, which is also a polypore, white, no distinguishing bands, just the colors you can see. But then what caught my attention is what's under the leaf. Now this one is not very good shape. I am going to turn it over for you. See the distinct bluish purplish color. It is a gilled mushroom, but there's not a lot that have that bluish characteristic. My initial impression, I do have to confirm it, is what's known as a bluet. But where there's one, there's often more. And there's another one peeking out from underneath. So I am going to harvest the two of these. There's a very distinguishing character. You see how it flares out at the base? That'll help me with my identification as well. So I'm going to harvest these and take them home for some positive identification. Alright, so I've been hiking for 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes or so. And it's early afternoon, it's time to sit down and have a bit of lunch. So I brought a few things out today, and for the first time I'm going to be trying them out. They were items that were sent to me by the company Überleben. And well, you'll have recognized these if you've seen these in other videos. This is not a review. Obviously, it's not a review. This is a first-time use. I was kind of interested in the designs. One thing in particular I'll show you in a second. But I've got a few things from the company that I'll be trying out. I'll just be showing you, and you will be seeing what I see for the first time as we try them out together. So what did they give me? Well, one thing they gave me is very interesting. It is a stainless steel stove. They call it the Stoker. It's got some weight to it. I'm going to annotate the information on the stove in the show notes below, but basically it is very similar to the Emberlit stove, except that the burn plate is full of holes, and I've been really wanting to try one of these stoves out. I do have a titanium one, very similar to, actually identical in size and half the weight, but I haven't had a fire in that one yet either. But this one arrived recently from Überleben, and since it is stainless steel, I thought it might be a closer comparison to the Emberlit stove. So I'm not going to be comparing the two of them side by side today, but I will be in the near future. Today it's just to set it up and see how it burns and make my lunch on it. So I'm going to be setting that stove up, and I'll show you that once it's assembled, and we'll get ready to have a fire with it. So what else they sent me? What I'm actually going to cook my lunch in. So this is something I was also interested. I saw on their website. They said they would send me. And this is there's some big bugs out here today. Big wasp. And he's very interested in me. There you go away, wasp. Anyway, small kettle. They call this the Kessel. So the Kessel is a kettle. It's a pot as well as a kettle. The lid is the full width of the pot itself. It is stainless steel. It has a tack welded on pour spout with small holes. I'll give you some close-ups in a second. And a very unique handle that rises up over top of it. Now the handle is removable. There is a knurled knob on the side of it, so I could even roll it down and pack it in the bag. It doesn't save a lot of space like that, but it does make it easier for getting access to the pot, I would think. It does have a wooden knob on top. Now the two things that probably stand out to you right away are, I wonder if that knob will burn in the fire. I suspect not. In fact, I think it might be a bit of an advantage. I won't be able to hook in with a stick, but I'll be able to grab onto it with my fingers quite easily. And if I need to, I can get a Y stick underneath it quite easily, I suspect, as well. But the other thing is the handle is covered in paracord. And when I looked at that, I wasn't so sure how well that would last over a fire. Well, that's what we're going to see today, at least over a small wood stove. It's far enough off of the side of the kettle that the flame may not touch it. If it does, I'm going to report that, obviously. I'm also interested in where the balance point is. So it appears to be just behind the top of the handle, somewhere there, because one of the things I'm going to be trying out, of course, is can I put this across a stick like that and have it suspended over a fire. Optionally, since this is made of two heavy gauge wire rims here, I'm going to be looking to see whether or not I can suspend it by a toggle. I may have to either remove the paracord or open the paracord up or put a ring on it even where I can get something down inside and hook onto it. That's all part of the learning process with this kettle. So that's what I'm going to cook my lunch in, and of course have boiled water for coffee in as well. The last thing they sent me is a ferro rod. I believe it's called the Keurig, but I will make sure I put that on the screen correctly. This is monstrous. This is an 8-inch by 1/2 inch diameter ferro rod. I was interested in that to see if it was any different than the ones that I carry now. I carry a 5-inch by 1/2 inch ferro rod that I get from eBay, and I don't pay a lot for them, and I'm quite happy with them. You know, from my knowledge, there are basically two types of ferro rods available. There are the types like the Light My Fire or the Firesteel.com, which have a softer composition, which scrape off much easier and ignite much easier with a lot less force. Then there are the type that come from China that have a much harder composition. The difference being is that it takes more force to remove metal from the ones from China. I understand the difference in performance is that the ones from China have a hotter spark than the softer ones that will come from either the Light My Fire or Firesteel.com. I don't know that for sure, but that's what I've been led to believe from the information I could read. What I've done with this one is I put some duct tape or Gorilla Tape around the 5-inch mark, so it marks it off exactly the same spot of the 5-inch one that I would carry. And the reason I did that is I wanted to have the same striking distance on both rods to compare them to see if it was going to be similar striking the two rods side by side. I'll practice with that. I'm going to light my fire with this one today. One thing I can tell you about longer rods is that the more room that you have on the rod to strike down, the more force you can generate because you can strike on a longer distance. The more material you're going to remove, the more spark you're going to get. But there is a balance. This is one huge piece of metal. Now it comes with a little striker. It does have a nice raised edge on it, which will definitely bite into the metal. A couple little doodads. I can't see that the rest of it is being especially useful, but yeah, you can certainly scrape fat wood or something similar with it as well. So we're going to light our fire with that. So let me get set up and we'll start lunch. Two other products that I brought along today for testing are from Hangar 51. They've also sent these out as samples to me. And the one is called the Waxwood. And this is a product that is impregnated, I'm assuming under negative pressure, with wax. So it's just a light softwood impregnated with wax. I played with it just a little bit, and I find it has properties very similar to fat wood in a lot of ways, as you're going to see because I'm going to light my fire with it. The other one's called a Firestop Roll. Interesting material. It's like a heavily waxed paper. Rips like paper, has fine edges on it. My experience so far is that it does not do well in taking a spark from a ferrocerium rod. I could probably make it do so, but it's just probably easier to light this with a naked flame. So I'm going to hold that in reserve and put it on top. But I am going to light some of this waxwood with the ferrocerium rod, so let's see what I can't do here. Using my Randall Graham knife, let's just take a few shavings off first. I have to tell you, it feels very much just like fat wood would. So normally when I'm out and I light fires, I try my best to use what I find available to me in the woods. I prefer to use the natural materials, and more often than not it is birch bark. But I do carry along fire starters for those days when everything is wet. It's not too bad right now, but yeah, it's not too bad right now, but still it's worth giving it a try. So using the back of the knife, you can see it feathers up just like fat wood. Alright, lay that aside. I've got a few curls here, but for the most part all I'm going to be using is this paper material as well as the waxwood. And in the stove there's just a number of sticks, broken down pine sticks, nothing too special. Where's my scraper? Kind of a top-down burn, so let's see if I can't get this lit. Well, I have done better in the past with this. Ah, there we go, that's better. Took a second. My knife away. stove. The other piece in. A couple of curls. See if we can't get this fire started. That was interesting because I have done better lighting that with the ferrocerium rod, but it lit. And going for a top-down burn, you do have to have a number of small, fine pieces that you can put on top. You have to generate the heat and the coals that are going to drop down into the wood. And hopefully I have enough. And we'll work here as the fire lights up. So I thought it'd be worthwhile you seeing what I see at the same time. And one of the things you'll notice about the Uberleben stove, very similar to other stoves that come from China that are stainless steel, that are copies or at least based on the design of the Emberlit, is that it has a large feed port in the front. Now the Emberlit is a relatively small feed port, but other stoves like Lixada have larger, much larger feed ports. And there's a balance, I think, to be found between too large and too small. And the Uberleben has a relatively small, larger than the Emberlit, but smaller than the Lixada feed port. And the reason why I feel there's a balance to be reached is that there has to be a balance in airflow between the air going into the stove and the exhausting of the air. And this is true of all wood stoves, doesn't matter what design or what make they are. You can have all the airflow in the bottom, and this has a lot, but if you're not exhausting enough out through the top, you tend to not smother the fire, but dampen it down. I'm seeing some of that happen. The wood here is less than ideal. It is burning and it's generating heat, so I'm not complaining too badly, but what I'm seeing is that when I put the pot on, it immediately damped the fire down, considerably in fact. The thing that I'm looking for to see, and I won't know this until I have some comparison with the Emberlit, is how the floor plate with all the extra holes affects performance. So at this point I have that little top-down burn, and most of that is consumed, so I've started putting sticks in from the front here, like I would an Emberlit, or a firebox for that matter, but we're comparing this with the Emberlit. And I'm getting pretty good feed and pretty good flame, so I'm happy with it so far. There is a lot of airflow on the bottom of this stove. Now, this stove did come with crossbars on the top, just like an Emberlit does. With the size of this pot, I did need to put them on. The pot is bigger than the top of the stove. And that's a factor that influences the burn as well. If the pot is larger than the top of the stove, then you're going to restrict airflow automatically. There are some things that I've done in the past, and I'll likely show you in the future again, how you can increase airflow on a stove like this. And that basically, instead of putting the crossbars in from corner to corner, as it's designed to do, is to turn them sideways so it goes across. Now that usually means putting a little notch on the top. We'll have to see if that's necessary on this one as well. But there is flame. It is bringing my water to a boil, and pretty soon it'll be time to put my lunch on, and when it is, I'll show you that. Okay, water is boiling. Let's see how easy it is to get the lid on and off. Ooh, get a little close to the steam. Try that again. See that the spout right there, there's water. You can see the steam coming out of it to let me know it is boiling. And what I want to do is get in and grab the wood. Now the wood is cold, it didn't get hot. You just have to make sure you don't get your fingers too close to that spout. So my water is boiling. So meal today is another one of my dehydrated meals. There's dehydrated jerky and quite a few other things in here. It'll take a few minutes for this to rehydrate. Alright, I wanted to see if I could do that, get it in past the handle without the handle interfering. As a kettle, it looks like it's going to work very well, and so far as a pot, not bad. I like the fact that this has a wide open base, or wide open top, so it's the full width. It's not like a kettle with like the GSI kettle would be. Maybe a good balance between the two of them. Only time will tell. So far, no flame reaching the paracord on the handle. All right, let that cook for a little while and we'll see how things go. Alright, so my lunch is cooked in the pot. The bowl I'm using today is not something I made myself. It is actually something I found at Value Village, but it is a wooden bowl. I wanted to try it out as a bowl for eating out of. I did wash it out, of course, and everything. Now, what I wanted to do here is to see how easy it would be to serve myself from the pot. The lid comes off nicely. I'm going to try pouring it out the side because it is a nice big soup, stew kind of a thing. And that worked well. Alright, nothing burnt, nothing stuck to the bottom. Now, that's hot. That's going to take a while for it to cool off. But in the meantime, I can start bringing some water on for coffee. So far, with this pot, so good. Fall has to be the most beautiful time of the year to be out in the woods. It's exciting in the spring when you see new growth and new plants coming out after a long winter, but just for the pure beauty of it, the fall is the best. No flies, that's a plus. It wasn't so long ago that my daughter and I sat right in this spot and tried to have a fire and a lunch, and we were eaten alive by black flies. A couple of wasps, that's all I've seen here today. A couple dragonflies. This is what it's all about. It's cooler, but in fact I like that. I don't get quite as hot, quite as wet from the hiking. And when the weather gets cool, I feel more like cooking a meal, like I have here. Yes, just a dehydrated meal, but all healthy things in it. So I'm going to be doing more of that now as the fall comes on as well. And in this area, I've determined, well, I've been here and I hiked out last year. I was thinking about doing an overnight camp, and that was right in the middle of my chemo. I think it was a little overzealous, kind of overestimated what my health would allow me to do. But there's no reason why I can't do that this year. So, my water is ready now for coffee, but I'm not even finished my lunch, so I'm going to just let the water boil for a few minutes and let the wood go down, then it'll be fine for coffee. I have quite a hike out yet, so I will be showing you more before I sign off. And I just wanted to point out again, the items that I showed you today from Überleben is just an interview, or just a preview, if you will, just a first use, not a review. Just wanted to show you a couple of things that the company sent me for testing. And I wanted to point that out as well, that these were given to me. I did not purchase them. They were given to me for testing. So far, so good. They seem to be working out well. I had some reservations, especially on the kettle, but and I haven't hung it over a real fire yet, so that'll still has to be done. There are features of it I do like. I will tell you this right now, in dealing with Überleben, I don't think I'm the exception, but their customer service is top-notch, and that makes a big difference. You may be able to get a better price on a stove similar to this Stoker, but I don't think you'll get better service, and it's an American company, if that's important to you. Mind you, the stove, I believe, is made in China, but the service, I spoke directly to people at the company, and I'll tell you, they were wonderful to deal with. Okay, I'm going to enjoy my lunch, make some coffee. I'll probably bring it back once or twice before it's time to move on. There's still a lot of colors. The sun's coming in and out of the clouds, so I still want. Now just a bit of a ground level view of the Überleben as it brings my water to a boil. Actually, it is boiling. It is drafting well. It is burning well. It's producing a lot of heat. Very similar to the Emberlit. I think it burns hotter and I think it burns faster. But I won't know that until I do a side-by-side comparison. Okay, so the weather has changed. When I left this morning, it was probably 9-10 degrees Celsius and sunny and calm, beautiful morning out. Kind of the morning you really want to be out in the woods. But now late afternoon, the temperatures drop. I'm running around 6-7 degrees Celsius. This cloud is coming in, the wind is picked up. I knew it was going to rain. My hope is just to get out of the woods before it does rain. So I had to pack up in a bit of a hurry. I didn't get to show you everything that I wanted to show you today, but I'm sure there's a few things I'll find on the way out of the woods. So I will probably close off just before I get out of the woods, as long as it doesn't start raining, that is. But let's get on the trail and see what else we can find on the way home. So the lighting has to be just right sometimes to pick up the colors that you want to see. This isn't as vibrant as some of the reds and the yellows are, but this is kind of special nonetheless. So the sun is setting towards the west, and the small section of woods I'm in right now is dominated, at least the understory, is dominated by what we call moose maple, otherwise known as striped maple. So all those yellow-green leaves you see are all striped maple, and it's quite pretty to see that. So we're adding that to our fall color catalog. I come up from under some of the taller trees just to a little bit of an opening, and the sun is hitting it just right. A little bit more fall color to show you. Okay, so I've been hustling along the trail for the last 45 minutes to an hour, trying to get ahead of what is obviously going to be a good rainstorm in the next little while. Hopefully I'll make it home before it starts to rain. And I stopped for a drink of water and one of my energy bars, and I took a look at the camera and discovered I have a problem, or may have a problem. While I was still at the other end of the lake and had the camera set up on the tripod, when the wind started to pick up, big gust of wind came along, knocked my tripod over in the camera, and it hit the granite rocks hard, enough to pop the battery off. While looking at it now, I can see a big dent in the ring around the lens itself, the bezel. It's not going to accept any attachments, not that I had any for the front of it anyway. But I'm also looking at it and I can see the housing has been popped open on the top of the camera. I'm hoping it's something I can fix, because if not, it looks like I may end up having to replace this camera. That may put a temporary halt to my recording capabilities, so I'm hoping, actually I don't even know if this is coming out clear and if the sound is being recorded on it. I hope it is. So, oh well, you know, that's what happens when you go out in the woods. Things happen to your equipment. I'll just have to start looking for a replacement camera. Well, on the good side, bag of mushrooms, different ones that I can take home and practice my identification skills on. A couple of them I'm pretty sure are edible, and I'll try those out if I can confirm that they are what I think they are. But beyond that, beautiful day. I got some fall colors in. A little chillier than I expected with the wind when it picked up. But you can't beat this, folks. You really cannot beat a fall day in the woods regardless of what takes place. It's just the best time of the year. So why don't you do what I did today? If you get the opportunity, get out and explore. Take that path less traveled. It will make all the difference. Bye for now.